As the Pokemon games have evolved, each generation has adopted its own distinct design theme. We're breaking down every single Pokemon region to see which features were the most popular among the designs, starting with the first ever Pokemon games. This first generation has the highest proportion of Pokemon with angry or aggressive eyes compared to any other generation. The original Game Boy screen was tiny and it had no color, and it didn't even have a backlight. It was very hard to see. They had to use sharp, simple lines to make shapes stand out. During the time they were developing it was like in the 1990s, which was a long time ago. There was a lot of popular anime back then. For example, we could take Dragon Ball Z. These characters, they had sharp eyes to make the characters look more cool and powerful, while Pokemon's main designer, Ken Sugimori, was heavily influenced by the style, and he really wanted to make Pokemon just have angry eyes. Originally, the creators didn't think of Pokemon as cute toys. They were supposed to be fierce wild animals that you captured and trained to fight. To make them look even tougher, Pokemon also commonly share this three-pointed crest thing. It's also to just make them have more texture and ruggedness. Also, the Magikarp portion here looks like a crown. Another common feature that this generation uses is small dots and splotches. Though this may be a small detail, if they were to get rid of it, the designs would be much more plain. It would just look like a regular animal at that point. Another cute common trend is that several Pokemon actually have round pink noses. They're both in the same circular shape and size, but something even more of a trend in Generation 1 was pink round Pokemon. If we just look at this whole list, none of them have angry eyes. As you can see, they're all just circular. If they were to have angry eyes, that would just throw off the whole design. Just like I mentioned earlier with the three-pointed crest, there's also more texture with Pokemon designs. We have jagged line shapes. As we can see, some of them are on the head, on the arms, or on the torso. But rather than sharp stuff, we also got some rounded, simple horns. Rhydon is widely considered the very first Pokemon ever programmed into the code. Its horns and the overall face structure set the exact design standard for the entire Generation 1 especially. This one actually counts for both the Kanto region and the Johto region. They share this red forehead gem. Some of them have psychic power, but some don't. It's cool that all the gems on them look almost identical and in the same shade. Speaking of circular things, a ton of Pokemon in Generation 2 have orbs on their body. Doesn't always have to be shiny orbs that are glowing, but it could also mean the shape like a round ball. So it's like a contrast to the Kanto region where many Pokemon had these crest things, but now Johto has more circular soft shapes. Although Pokemon in other games may share this eye shape, Generation 2 had this more commonly. It looks more friendly compared to the angry eye shape trend they were going for in the past. They wanted more flavor in the Pokemon world. There's actually a lot of Pokemon that have a lot of false faces and eye spots, which, for example, we have Wobbuffet. We may think that the blue body is the face, but it's actually the tail, and Girafarig even has a face on the tail. Even Quillfish has eye-like markings on its tail. Manton and Spinarak also have face-like markings on their backs, and even Scizor has eye spots on its claws, and Stantler's horns are meant to look like eyes. This is shared pretty evenly with Gen 3, especially with Masquerain. Now we're moving on to Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, which is the third generation of mainline Pokemon games. This is where design started to get a lot more detailed. Things took a big turn with the introduction of Game Boy Advance. There's lots of geometric patterns, more in-depth stuff, more shapes, with Rayquaza, Groudon, and the Hoenn region focused heavily on the theme of balance between humans and nature, which inspired cleaner, more harmonious, and sometimes symmetrical creature designs compared to the chaotic jagged shapes we had in the first generation. Designers like Ken Sugimori added dark, thick rings around the eyes, or like eye shadows, to frame the face, which is like a bold eyeliner. It immediately draws your attention to the Pokemon's eyes and expressions, even on a tiny screen. It was also an easy way to give a monster a powerful look without drawing complicated facial details. The frequent appearance of zigzag lines on the body patterns, it was the perfect fit for a digital pixel grid. It just makes the sprite more highly stylized and dynamic without taking up a ton of screen space. They also like to balance cute and dangerous. Now we're even going to get even more advanced with the devices, because in Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, this was the first generation designed specifically for the Nintendo DS. There's a trend with forehead head spikes. This was intentionally designed to make Pokemon look better from behind during battles. Many Gen 4 Pokemon were designed to look like they were wearing ancient helmets or battle armor, and Garchomp's head mimics a hammerhead shark. To have even more personality, there's a sudden burst of hat shapes on Pokemon heads, which was a brilliant design trick to make Pokemon look memorable. If you look at a ton of Sinnoh monsters, like this whole list here, they are covered in bright yellow stripes. This was a highly artistic choice to make darker color palettes pop on the Nintendo DS screen. So with Generation 4, we had way more complex palettes. Bright yellow was a very nice secondary color to slice through the darkness. Heading to the Unova region. Now in battle, this is the first time where we see like Pokemon just moving up and down, kind of bouncing during the battle. We get to see a lot of oval features, which was to make the first ever fully animated battle sprites to look smooth and natural while they're moving. The Pokemon Black and White games was the first ever games to feature the most new Pokemon. A lot of Pokemon have irregular color patterns. Like, it's not just one color, they have like a whole mix of different colors. The legendary trio with Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus, you'll find their bodies completely covered in different patterns. Despite the circles and everything, there is still some Pokemon that do have like spikes and blades onto them, because we can't just have all Pokemon looking friendly. We gotta have some like sharper, rougher Pokemon. 2D to 3D. This was a huge transformation for all the Pokemon designs out there. Not just the Pokemon designs, overall the whole entire Pokemon game. Pokemon really tended to have manes or scarves around their necks, but it also is heavily influenced by the theme of France, which is the Kalos region. Lumio City directly represents Paris. Game Freak's art team wanted the Pokemon of this region to look incredibly stylish and dressed up. Pink tongue scarves with Greninja, Braixen's fur that looks like a skirt. Something I wanted to mention is that every single Pokemon generation up to now actually has like an electric mouse rodent. And then now for Generation 6, we have the Dedenne. The designers gave it bright orange cheek circles, but these cheek circles also moved on to a lot of other Pokemon. So since Generation 6 is the first game to introduce fairy types, they wanted to have some cute character shapes to match the new 3D models. It makes it have a more friendlier expression. Something pretty nice is also the trend with angular crystals, Pokemon that have these crystals on their body. Carbink is literally made out of gems itself. That is the whole purpose of the Pokemon, where it gets eaten by Sableye sometimes. So crystals is a heavy theme, to the point where even Pokemon Legends ZA, we literally had crystal shards everywhere, throughout the whole city, just growing randomly. Generation 7, Pokemon Sun and Moon. Things got very tropically. Now everything just got transformed, as if we were on like summer vacation, directly getting inspired by oceans. Pokemon had lots of wavy lines on their designs. Same with the cloud shapes. These cloud shapes looked very soft on the 3DS. The game engine had gained the ability to use dynamic shaders and particle effects, which makes it look nice in battle as well. Now, other than the cloud shapes and all these wavy lines, the most popular one was the heavy use of triangle patterns. This was a deliberate choice by Game Freak to celebrate the traditional Hawaiian culture while pushing the visual limits of the Nintendo 3DS. If you look at the lowland monsters like the Island Guardians, Tapu Koko, and all these Tapus, it also makes them way more unique, like easy to spot. Like if you just look at this Pokemon, you would instantly know that it would be this and that. We got Generation 8 now. We got Sword and Shield. There's a massive burst in the energy from just regular gym battles. Now there are stadiums that are completely filled with people, and they're all screaming and cheering. It's also themed entirely around sports. So there's a lot of Pokemon that have damaged aesthetics onto them, like more like a battler. It's not just to make them look like they are tough. It's also because the jagged shapes, more like modern graphic art, stickers, or streetwear. All these cool things that you would see, but that look more modern. And just like how every single Pokemon is ready to battle and ready to fight, we got this feature with determined eyebrows, where even the starter itself has one. It's not necessarily like angry eyes. It's more like they are ambitious. It's not that they're mad. Another cool thing is that we see so many of these little bunny ears or long hearts. It was pretty efficient to keep using these types of shapes, because it would also speed up the production of the games. They didn't have to just make every single Pokemon look different. They wanted to create like similar patterns here and there. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet felt very heavily food-based, like it honestly felt like a cuisine game. The music is very festive. We got this whole new feature of making sandwiches in the game, and that's why there's like numerous amounts of Pokemon that are food-based. Like we got olives, peppers, bagels. These gym leaders, one of them named Katie, she is a baker. Some of the gym battles are involved in restaurants, like with Larry. In terms of specific shapes, this generation had a very strong correlation with straight parallel lines. It's very straight, almost as if they didn't want to make it wobbly, like they wanted to make it look very perfect, symmetrical. It does look pretty satisfying, despite all the glitches and bugs here and there that they had in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. 3 Pokemon in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet do have this tube neck. is actually a massive chunk of Gen 9's design identity revolves around past Paradox Pokemon. They wanted the creatures to look prehistoric, like these dinosaurs. Since this is also Pokemon's first true open world, we were just running around these massive fields. So some small Pokemon we could barely see and they would just disappear into the grass. But if you give Pokemon long necks, it would increase their height. This made us just see the Pokemon way more easily in the tall grass. So that is every single design feature that is very popular throughout every Pokemon game, is unique to each generation. Which Pokemon generation was your favorite? Comment down below. Thanks for watching and see you next time.